Hi there. Great to see you here. The man now story today is exceptionally worthy of the title professional con artist. He claimed to be an aristocrat, drove a Bentley, had bodyguards, lived in a sea view mansion, and boasted ancestors who invented typewriters. A true old money type. But after 18 months of their relationship, his fiancée Megan opened his drawer to find a wallet stuffed with dozens of credit cards, each bearing a different name. Soon after, Megan's inbox exploded. Messages from men she never met, each delivering the same message: I slept with him in your bed. Those were just the opening notes. The real symphony of chaos was about to begin. This story took place on the Isle of Wight, off the southern coast of England, a place that has been a British royal treat since the Victorian era. Osborne House, the seaside residency of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, stands there. In summer, ferries bring crowds and white sails. In the off-season, there's only sea breeze, seagulls, and narrow lanes leading to cliffs. In such a place, where titles, estates, and old moneys are not unfamiliar concepts, people claiming to be a lord and discussing their family history does not sound out of place. The girl in our story is Megan, a native islander. She's a vibrant, outgoing young woman who loves to party and, in her friends' words, is a serial dater. Someone who loves meeting new people and never shies away from a bit of fun. She is independent and ambitious. In the summer of 2017, at just 20 years old, Megan partnered with a friend to take over a rundown local pub. Through her hard work, she transformed it into a popular, trendy cocktail bar where she also served as manager. One quiet weekday evening, she was busy behind the bar. She looked up to see a man walk in who did not quite look like a local. Islanders generally dress casually and relaxed, but this man was tall, impeccably dressed, and spoke with a posh accent. He sat down at the bar and introduced himself as Bertie Underwood. His profession was a word Megan had never heard before: horologist, or a watchmaker. He said he had just moved from the mainland and had just bought a seaview house at an auction on the island. Megan found him interesting and different. Bertie, for his part, was polite, charming, and attentive. From the first glance, Megan was drawn to him, filled with curiosity. The next day, a massive bouquet of flowers arrived directly at her workstation in the bar. The card read, 7 p.m. tonight. Let's go on a date. Young people nowadays are often casual about dating. Megan, despite her many dates, had never been asked out quite like this before. It felt like something out of an old movie. For the first date, he chose a fancy restaurant, an expensive multi-course dinner with champagne, several Instagram-worthy dishes, and waiters addressing her as Madam. At 20 years old, Megan had never experienced such treatment. She felt truly cherished, enjoyed the kind of experience only a true gentleman could provide. What followed were multiple trips to London, stays in upscale hotels, and shopping spree in high-end stores. Every time Bertie returned from his business trips to the island, he brought gifts: clothes, perfumes, shoes, and he even bought Megan a car. They also adopted a puppy together. Within a month, they were exchanging I love yous. Bertie began to share more about himself. He told Megan he was an earl and that his great grandfather had invented the Underwood typewriter, which was the source of his family's aristocrat title and wealth. His Seaview mansion had antique posters of Underwood typewriters framed on the walls, subtly hinting at his family's deep roots. With a perfect mix of nobility, taste, charm, and indulgence, young Megan was completely enchanted. Just a few months later, Bertie suggested Megan move into his three-story sea view house. Megan was nervous yet excited, full of dreams for their future, feeling like a girl kissed by Lady Luck. The mansion perfectly matched her upper-class fantasies. Every piece of furniture had a story. The table was a prized auction find. The floor lamp was a limited edition from a renowned designer. Megan gradually integrated into her new life, walking the dog with Bertie, strolling, cooking, wine tasting, and traveling. Several more months passed, and on Christmas Day, Bertie put out a red Cartier bag, revealed a massive diamond ring, and knelt to propose. Megan laughed and cried, accepting the proposal in a daze. Megan's family was also very pleased with their new son-in-law, finding him polite, gentle, and considerate, not to mention the added prestige of his aristocratic title. Wedding preparations immediately moved into high gear. Bertie explained that it was his family tradition to marry quickly after engagement, and naturally, the venue had to match his status. They set their sights on Osborne House, the very seaside residency of Queen Victoria I mentioned earlier. Megan was tirelessly busy, wedding dress fittings, coordinating with food, drink, and flower vendors. Bertie also told Megan, after we marry, you can use the title of Countess. A voice inside Megan kept saying, wow, so this is what it feels like to marry an earl. I feel like I am dreaming. During the wedding preparations, however, some strange things began to surface. For example, Bertie strictly forbid Megan from posting any photos of him on social media, not even of restaurants or tourist spots they visited together. And some of the photos didn't even show his full face. His reason was that his high-ranking naval officer father did not allow family members to use social media. Then he demanded Megan give up and leave the bar she had built. He explained that working the bar was against his family rules and unsuitable for an aristocrat wife. But let's be clear, he did not plan on Megan being a lady of leisure. Instead, he quickly assigned her new work. Aside from being a horologist, Bertie also collected and traded antique and expensive watches. So now Megan became Bertie's employee, doing the work of five people: marketing, photographing watches, posting online ads, driving social media traffic, and handling customer service and logistics. She receives no salary, as Bertie put it. They were engaged, so what was his was hers. Another very strange thing was the daily arrival of mail addressed to unfamiliar names, piling up the front porch. Bertie brushed it off as old mail for previous tenants and told Megan to just ignore it. Whenever Megan questioned him, Bertie would quickly change the subject, becoming unusually defensive and even irritable. At the time, Megan, wrapped in the glow of happiness and buried in the unpaid work and wedding planning, did not think to question it further. While Megan was immersed in wedding preparations, Bertie was operating in another hunting ground, the gay dating app Grindr, where he sought new prey. Mike was one of them. In 2016, Mike lived a peaceful life in Hastings, a seaside town in southeast England, working at a supermarket. One day, a man walked into his workplace and, with an elegant and refined accent, he said, "Hello, my name is Robert." Mike recognized him as the person he had been chatting with and exchanging photos on Grindr. They quickly become acquainted. Robert, or rather Bertie, often took Mike out. They went to bars, traveled, and Bertie always spent lavishly on expensive art pieces. Mike, who came from a working class background, described those days as living the high life. Bertie exuded an aristocratic air in his words and actions. His clothing, his demeanor, his peculiar eccentricities all made him seem like a true earl. Mike thought, wow, it's not like every day you just met an eccentric lord. They become close friends. Mike had been to Bertie's apartment, Bertie had cooked for him, and they often go out to parties and bars. One evening, after a few drinks, Bertie casually mentioned that a friend couldn't make it to a pre-booked trip to Venice. "This might be a bit presumptuous," Bertie said, "but would you like to come?" Mike had never been to Venice and was thrilled. Bertie then said he just needed to change the documents to Mike's name. He then asked for Mike's passport, took a photo of it, uploaded it, and sent it off. Mike did not think much of it at the time, assuming it was a necessary step for travel. Later, Bertie approached Mike again, claiming that his eBay account was frozen and asking Mike to help him sell a Rolex watch under his own name on eBay. Trusting his friend, Mike agreed. The watch was successfully sold through Mike's eBay account and everything was fine. However, a few weeks later, Mike's world turned upside down. Messages flooded in, accusing him of defrauding multiple eBay buyers of thousands of pounds. Everyone sent photos of the same Rolex watch, which they had purchased from the eBay account Mike had set up for Bertie. Mike contacted eBay and discovered that Bertie had used the screenshot of his passport to prove that Mike was a real seller. When Mike confronted Bertie, he merely brushed it off, saying that there was a mistake and misunderstanding and he would handle it. Then, of course, he disappeared. And that was the last time Mike saw this man. Around the same time, in the winter of 2016, Alex, an artist from Brighton, England, was living in South Korea. Feeling lonely overseas, he wanted to establish some connection with his homeland online. So he posted a personal ad on Craigslist, detailing the qualities he sought in an ideal partner. About a month later, he received an email with artfully crafted, highly appealing language. And that was Alex's first encounter with Bertie. Bertie quickly became an indispensable part of Alex's life, and they spoke frequently. Their conversations covered a wide range of topics, but what stood out most were Bertie's increasingly bizarre stories. He claimed that the reason he looked younger than his real age was because he had undergone facial reconstructive surgery after an ex-boyfriend tried to kill him. He also fabricated terrifying tales of an ex-girlfriend wanted by the police, and his mother knocking out two of the women's teeth by striking her so hard that a ruby from her ring became lodged in the woman's face during the argument. These stories, though dark, were undeniably captivating. Bertie hinted at wanting a relationship with Alex, but Alex realized early on that they are not compatible and politely declined, stating that he only wished to remain friends. When Alex returned to the UK, Bertie intensified his contact. They often went out for drinks. Once, on the street, Bertie pointed to a Bentley and claimed it was his car. He told Alex that he was, in fact, an earl. Later, he also mentioned his bodyguards and driver. Luxurious clothing, a posh accent, a Bentley, and an entourage. All these elements combined to make Bertie's stories sound incredibly real. He began to talk about commissioning an artwork from Alex, mentioning that he had met a diamond in the rough kind of girl on the Isle of Wight and was buying a mansion there, which would need art to decorate. This girl, in fact, was Megan, who was on another line of this elaborated web. Bertie even introduced Alex to Megan over the phone, and Alex received their wedding invitation. Bertie's most powerful deceptive technique was to answer his phone in front of his victims, pretending to speak to someone else who would validate his stories. For example, Alex often overheard him discussing his duties as an earl with his father. These seemingly independent pieces of evidence made Bertie's carefully woven lies appear even more authentic. However, Alex's friendship with Bertie quickly took a sinister turn. Bertie asked him to forge bank statements and passport. Alex found this abrupt and firmly refused, after which Bertie gradually distanced himself and eventually disappeared. Alex grew increasingly suspicious and was determined to uncover Bertie's true identity. He remembered Bertie mentioned to know some of his friends. One day, it suddenly clicked. He could contact one of these mutual acquaintances to see if Bertie truly knew them. So he called one of his friends, a police officer. Alex began to explain that he had met a man who claimed to be an earl, giving a rough outline of the situation. The other end of the line fell silent. The officer's reply was chilling. He said, "Alex, this guy is very dangerous, and you need to get as far away from him as you can." Let's return to Megan's side of the story. With 2 months left until the wedding, the pile of mail addressed to unfamiliar names continued to grow. Megan's intuition told her something was amiss. She decided to do some digging. One day, when Bertie was out, Megan entered his study. She rummaged through the drawers and finally found a wallet containing dozens of credit cards, each bearing a different name, and none of them were Bertie Underwood. At that moment, Megan realized she didn't even know the real name of the man she was about to marry. She confronted Bertie with the wallet, and he immediately changed his demeanor, aggressively interrupting her and shouting, "You shouldn't touch these." Megan's heart pounded, her palms sweating. She took the wallet and returned it to her parents' home, where she and her family Googled all the names on the cards. A chilling truth emerged from their online search of the names on the cards. Numerous arrest mugshots and news report revealed Birdie's long history of fraud. It turns out that Birdie Underwood was just one of his many aliases, and behind the face lay a staggering criminal record. He was no aristocrat. He wasn't even middle class. He grew up in the council house and had been swindling people since he was 16. As early as 2010, while still underage, he had impersonated Lord Robert Doughty, a title he bought online, claiming millions in assets, and committed multiple frauds, including swindling over £500,000 from the luxury department store Harrods in London. 2 years later, in 2012, he was sent to a youth offenders institution for 27 months for attempting to defraud a businessman of nearly £40,000 and a Bentley. He was a professional con artist through and through. Heartbroken, Megan soon discovered that Bertie had left her with a massive financial mess. He had applied for multiple business credit cards in her name, and the total credit card bills sent to Megan amounted to $40,000. A huge sum for a 20-year-old girl with no savings or job. Initially, Megan's family tried to comfort her. It's okay, we still have the ring, right? We can sell it to cover the debt. But when they took the ring to a jury to have it tested, it's completely fake. Even the Cartier box and certificate upon closer inspection were not genuine. After the initial breakdown, Megan consulted with her best friend and decided to expose Birdie's face, his tricks, and all the details online to warn potential victims. The long post was shared from hundreds to thousands of times, snowballing to unearth more victims. Some claimed he stole from them, others said that he defrauded money. Mike and Alex also saw the post and recognized the signs in the comments section. The Bentley, Osborne House, passport screenshots, Grindr, and so on. Every detail matched. Even more suffocating were the private messages from strange men. Some told Megan, "I slept with him in your bed." It was then that Megan realized this man was taking her wedding dress shopping while hunting on Grindr. The ring was fake, the mansion was rented, and his supposedly loyalty was shared. Megan went to the police and anti-fraud agencies, only to be told that many of the incidents were considered domestic affairs due to their romantic relationship, leaving limited room for action. Megan couldn't recover her losses, nor could she escape the sudden death. The police and anti-fraud agencies were helpless. Ironically, for other fraud charges unrelated to Megan, Birdie was eventually sentenced to 5 years in prison. However, the legend of this kind of fraud did not end there. In 2022, Birdie successfully escaped from prison and remains at large to this day. Despite suffering immense emotional and financial blows, Megan, the strong, optimistic young woman, treated it as a bad dream and did not abandon her aspirations for life and career. She transformed her grief into strengths, utilizing the photograph skills she refined while helping Birdie operate his watch business. In 2019, she founded her own photograph studio, diligently rebuilding her life. Over the years, she gradually filled the $40,000 financial hole, Today, she has her own home, her own business, living the very life she once thought she could only have by marrying a lord. But this time, it is real. There you have it, the crazy story of Bertie Underwood. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.